Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, guys, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share all the things. That's how we get the word out about what we do. We have some incredible guests on. I'm really excited for our guest today. Stefan Joens is in Arete also, and that's how we met. He runs a manufacturing company. They do 3D molding for printers. He'll go into it more than that, I'm guessing. It's the second generation. He started from his dad. He took over about four and a half years ago, but had been in the business since he was 14 years old, which is super cool. They're actually relocating to a different location. In that last 4 years, they've gone from 9 million in revenue to 20 million in revenue. So they've had some growth, over 40 employees. And yeah, it's incredible what this guy's doing. So welcome to the show, Stefan.
Angela, thank you so much. I'm so stoked to be here. It's been great to get to know you since we started, many years ago, but pumped to be here for your audience and see if I can help.
Awesome. Well, let's go back. We were chatting a little bit off air, so I kind of know where some of this is going to go, maybe. But, let's go back to taking over the company 4.5 years ago. What prompted you to do that? How did you step into that? What were some of the challenges? Let's go into that.
Awesome. Yeah. So you did a pretty good job there covering what we do. So we are a manufacturing company, and it's a super niche industry. We build these, high temperature industrial furnaces that take some form of metal part that's either molded or printed. And then it hardens and densifies it. So it could be the watch that's on your wrist. Some of the links are like the actual part. It could be a hip that you got replaced. It could be a knee part. It could be, any one of the, many gun parts that are on guns that are in injection molded parts. Airplane parts, fashion, could be the Louis Vuitton buckles on your bags if you guys are Louis Vuitton fans. Anything that's small, smaller than a softball size and has high volume and metal. A lot of people are looking to make these things in a more economical way with less waste. And that's really what our industry is doing. And my dad started this business about 54 years ago. Wow. This part of our business, this furnace technology, has been around for almost the last 30 years. And as you said, I've been in and out of here since I was 14. All I wanted to do at 14 was drive the forklift, but nobody let me do it because I would have put holes in everything. So I learned those lessons quick. But I worked my ass off here when I was a kid, and then I decided I actually wanted to leave the business because I don't want to do this stuff anymore. And finance was really cool. So I worked in finance for almost 5 years, and that's where I learned a lot of my leadership and people skills and what drives people and what motivates them. And we can certainly talk a lot about that today if you want. But I lost the technical side of my brain. My dad and I are both business students by study, but we're both technical in terms of the way we operate. So I decided to come back into the business, the family biz, and I worked my way through every part of this business from, being the liaison customer to business here in the office to taking over our field service team when our manager was, he actually relocated to California. We kept him on board as a service tech. But nobody stepped up to take on the manager role. So I was like, well, I'll do it. I can lead people. I don't know the programming side, but I know people. And then there was another opportunity our shop floor manager at that time was no longer with us too. And it was the same thing. It's like, hey, who's going to run this? And I was like, I can do it. It sounds like an interesting role. What does it take? Run around, get people what they need, make sure they're safe and so forth. So I kind of worked my way through the business. Took an opportunity to move to Germany for 6 months and work with a customer of ours to really learn all the stuff that happens before our equipment. And then came back, took on a GM role of the company. So I was really involved in all the day-to-day and controlling all those processes. And then 2019 came around and my dad and I started talking about a little succession, a little bit moving on, getting me more into the leadership role of the business. And that's when I started taking on that spot. And it's been a lot of fun. I brought some really good people onto the team in 2019. And that part of our group has really been growing. Culture's been shifting tremendously to, it's such a team environment of people that love working together and love hanging out together too, outside of work, which is fun. Funny, last night we all, a bunch of us just got together for like a cigar night and just talked about work and life and stories and appreciation and recognition. So it's been really, really fun. And yeah, in the last 4 years, basically was in the saddle here and have been leading from the front, with everybody and, just painting the vision and helping them with what they need to do every day.
That's so cool. I love that. So what were some of the challenges of taking over, taking over the company? What were some of the challenges and how did you overcome them?
Great question. What's funny is I sit here now 4.5 years later since I took over, and I always was nervous about the day. My dad's still alive. He's 82 years old. phenomenal human, love the man to death, is truly retired now. He's like, you know what? I'm hanging it up, right? Doesn't have any hobbies. I wish I could get him some hobbies and so forth. Not a golfer or anything like that. But I'm working with him on that. But I was always nervous about, eventually I knew I was going to run the company. And I was like, eventually, like all things happen, there's, death happens in life. And I was like, man, the day that my dad goes, what am I going to do? How am I going to run this place? Right? Like, I'm not going to have him around to help me and all that stuff. And I look back over the last 4.5 years, and while I've leaned on him, because he's still there and he helps me in ways and gives me some good guidance as our chairman of the company, I feel really good. I feel really comfortable. So the challenge I always worried about of him not being around to support and help where I might need it, I'm good right now. I feel so comfortable with what I'm doing, with the team that I've built around me. So I think the biggest challenge in the beginning was, other than that, using that as the recognition of how are we going to make this work as me being at the helm of it. Mm-hmm. What I've recognized is you got to support yourself with people that can handle some of the areas of the business, which I could do, but there's no reason I should be. So I've really built a phenomenal group of people around me that care as much as I do about progression, about building the vision, about, safety of our team and growing our team and training our team. That was a challenge that I overcame by listening to, what my gut and my heart was saying is like, I can't do this alone. I need to have the right people around me. And luckily we both joined Arete around that time too. So there's just been a phenomenal level of values and culture and people that we've learned from there that I've adopted. And it's been great. It's been really great. I'd say the other challenge, and this happens in any business with people, man, it's the people side to it. While I love people and I pour into people as much as I can, you can never expect people to respond the way you think they will.
Right.
And we can talk about this. This actually came from the finance business that I was in. We could talk about it a little later, but sure. There's something called the 3-bucket theory. Have you ever heard that?
No, let's go into it.
So the 3-bucket theory is there's a bucket of control, there's a bucket of influence, and then there's a bucket of no control, no influence. And I learned this literally year one when I worked it was American Express at the time, the financial advisor branch, and then it became Ameriprise. But this is the thing that I've really I always draw back to in my life, both personal and professionally, is the first bucket of control. There's actually only one thing in that bucket of control. Do you know what it is? Take a guess.
No, I have no idea.
You. That's it.
That's all you can
control. The only
control.
thing you can control in this world is yourself.
Makes sense.
That's the only thing. There's nothing else you can control, no matter how hard you try. The people around you, the situations you're in, the feelings, emotions that people go through, that's all in bucket 2. That's in the influence bucket. And then bucket 3 is like, if it's going to rain today, I can't control that, unless you're the people at Vail Ski Resort where you're trying to play with the moisture in the air and everything, you can try to influence a little bit, but you can't control it, right? So if you can take and step back in your life and look at moments you're in, even if you can get it to the point where you've exercised it so much that going in, you can evaluate my control and my influence buckets, you can adjust the way you handle situations, whether it's meetings, people, reviews, relationships. You can adjust how you build your expectations. Like if you go into a meeting with an employee or a conversation with your spouse and you be like, man, I'm going to, this is what the outcome's going to be. It's got to be this. If you go in with that and it doesn't end that way, internally, you're going to be beat up. You're going to be hurt, right? But if you go in knowing I can only influence this, the decision is on their side. I have to do a really good job of selling them. I have to do a really good job of giving them information. I have to do a really good job of opening as much of the information that I can and setting the expectations so that they hopefully make the right decision based on what I'd like the outcome to be. But if it doesn't go that way, if you can set your expectation that I can only influence it and it doesn't get to that spot, you can walk away being like, okay, lesson learned. I got to recalibrate and try to come back and do it again versus, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. It didn't work out for me.
Right.
That's something I learned in finance that has been so helpful for me as an individual person. And I've had to really over the last, you mentioned what we're moving and we've been going through this process for the last year. And there's a lot of the person to person emotion side to it. We're helping our team move. We're trying to, provide them bonuses and so forth where possible. And just managing their expectations of all this thing is I can't control what they do. I can't control if they say yes or no. I can only influence it. So if they do say no, I'm okay because I know that it's their choice. It's their family. It's the things that are important to them.
Right.
So I use that in life and in business, and it's been a huge value for me.
So good. 100% responsibility, and all we can do is control ourselves. So
Yeah.
when you started going through that, did you have a lot of support outside, like friends support, or how was that all for you? Because I know for a lot of people, that's one of the biggest struggles when people go into entrepreneurship is like, oh, my friends tell me to quit, or my friends say you can't do it, or whatever, all the things that friends sometimes say, friends or family. Did you go through a lot of that, and how did you deal with it?
Great question. And I think my situation's a little unique and different where I didn't start this business, but I'm definitely running it. And a lot of second generation owners or even third generation owners, the age old being is, here comes the owner's son, the owner's daughter.
Yep,
they're here just to milk the company, and, they're just trying to get in their pocket with what they can kind of scenario.
Mm-hmm.
My dad taught me a lot different in that way. And he really made sure that I realized the value of what we have here and the opportunity that's here. So he supported me 100% naturally because he loves the idea that there's a legacy for his business.
Right.
But if I look back at like my friend group and the opportunities there, I think most of them, a couple of them actually challenged me at times. And they're like, why are you not working for the family business? This is a great chance for you. Like, obviously your parents have done all right. It's a cool technology. It's a cool industry. Why wouldn't you want to do it? So I think in my world, I've gotten a little bit more encouragement than discouragement, or you're crazy. What are you doing? Now with the move to Charlotte and the growth of the business, that's where I'm starting to feel this a little bit more, this somewhat contention. I think the biggest challenge is like, in some cases for people, it's like, because I'm going to be leaving, I've been born and raised here in New Jersey. A lot of people I'm going to miss them, and they're going to miss me too. So I think there's a little bit of that struggle. But I've gotten probably more encouragement and positivity than I have the other way around. But I think that's also, I've changed a little bit of the group of people that I surround myself with to be around more of those people. So there's a lot of power in that if you can work on that.
Associations. Yeah, that's super powerful. And, curiosity, what do you do? Like you are moving, what influenced you to want to move? Because when you say that, like, I just wonder if people are like, Stefan, like, why aren't you happy with where you're at? Like, you are successful, quote unquote, whatever that means to people. You're doing well. Why would you break the status quo? Why would you move to whole nother state? Like, why don't you just stay where you're at? Do you get much of that? And how do you, okay. That makes sense. How do you combat that? And what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah. That's a great question. If I really go back in time to where this all kind of stemmed from, about 5 years ago, I kept asking myself as I was moving a little bit more into the roles that I'm in now. I was always like, as a manufacturing within within the United States is starting to make a comeback, which I'm super, super proud of. But it wasn't strong 7-8 years ago. Right. So there was all this, like, you got to be strong in what you're doing. You got to manage your costs. Managing a manufacturing business is, especially a low volume manufacturing business, it's hard. There's a lot of struggle back and forth, and you're always looking at your costs versus your revenues that you take in and so forth, and managing those things and saying, okay, where can I cut costs? How do I do this? There's only so much you can do. And in a state, which I love New Jersey. I've lived here my whole life. Everything's inflated in cost, where in many other states, those costs aren't there. So that was one of the first things I evaluated. And I said, okay, well, what if we pay rent in another state? What would it look like? So I cruised up and down the East Coast and looked in Pennsylvania, New York. And I also looked for a place that I think most of my team would want to relocate to, which is where Charlotte is just becoming one of the best locations in the country to go to. Rent's half the cost. I'm paying, $14, $15 a square foot here. Down there, it's $8.60, $8.70, $9, something like that, depending on where you are. That's a phenomenal savings, where if you come into my building right now, we're in about a 20,000 square foot shop building. People are like spider monkeys on top of each other because there's not enough room. We need more space. Right. So we said, okay, let's get a second building, right? I'm building equipment. It's really nice when you can do that all in one building. It's not like I have a line of equipment being built there and a line of equipment being built over there, which is easier to separate. So I was like, okay, if we get a bigger building within New Jersey, I can do that. I'm going to have to move about an hour from here. because that's where the better, bigger buildings are with higher ceilings and all that stuff. So some of the team's going to have to move. And that's when that sparked in my head. Well, I was like, okay, well, if some people have to move, would they move into PA? Would they move into New York? Would they move north? Would they move south? And then it just explored out. And I presented this whole opportunity to the team as like, we can do X, get 2 buildings. We can do the middle ground. We can get 1 bigger building, but I can't grow the way we want to because a lot of our cost is going into rent. Or if we go out of state, we've got these opportunities that because of all the savings, we can go invest in new equipment that's going to allow us to do things more in-house, control our destiny, control our cost, learn some really new cool ways of making and manufacturing things, and give the team kind of an opportunity to advance their own personal careers. Guys doing manual work can now do CNC work, or they can run lasers, or they can run, CNC brakes and shears and all this really fun stuff that they can grow as individuals too. So all those things for me as an individual, I love that stuff. I love just pouring into my team and finding ways to get them to have more, learn more, do more. So all this stuff that we put together just led this path to go down to that area because of all the opportunities it is for the individual people. And I mean, trust me, there's way cheaper places to go, like, parts of Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, but we don't want to live there. Like North Carolina, Charlotte area has got a lot of feel of this like suburb area that we're in New Jersey. So just every time I went there, it felt like home. So that's why we picked and chose that area. And it's been a ride. It's been a ride managing everybody's expectations and managing the process and keeping the vision strong for everybody. But, I'm learning along the way.
What do you feel one of the biggest, as you're doing this, what is the biggest kind of plot hole or one that you kind of fell into, maybe that like if someone was going to do the same thing that you would say, hey, here's something to pay attention to that's probably going to come up that maybe you didn't, like a blind spot or something that kind of came up that you now like you're going past it. You're like, oh man, I should have looked into this maybe a little bit more. What are some things that might help other people that are looking at the same thing go smoother?
That's a great question. I actually have a book that I've been taking notes on as thoughts come into my head because I do want to be a resource for people once I'm done with this whole thing. Maybe even write a book from it. We'll see.
Cool.
So before I answer this question, I'll tell you a little bit of the work that I did ahead of time.
Okay.
So in order to make this work, I spent probably 6 to 8 months asking around everybody I know that knows somebody that's moved a business out of state. And I asked tons of questions. What did you do? Just like you just asked me, what did you do well? What did you not do so well? What would you do better the next time? What are some ideas? Did you bonus people? Did you pay moving? How did it work? So I spent a tremendous amount of time building that up. And that got me to a point out the gate that I feel I was much stronger than if I just went in without knowing. So I think we did a lot of good things in the beginning to start this whole process really, really well. I'd say the one thing over the last few months that I think I should have done more of is just been more actively in front of everybody, continuing to paint the vision, continuing to give updates on what we're doing and where it's going. What I've done is pretty much like every 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks, I'd, check out the building that we're going into, get some photo updates, tell more people about the area, and I'd show that to them. But I feel like I should have just been more in front of the people with it. Like really continue to build that energy within everybody and, not let people's fear of the move, which, I mean, listen, we're moving in a couple of months, we're going to start to. So there's fear in that. There's like, oh man, it's real. It's coming. Like we're going to have to relocate. And a lot of the team members are super stoked, but there's some people that want to come that are just, they're fighting that urge of fear, but that's human nature, right? Mm-hmm. It's natural to feel that way. And I feel it too, because I'm like, my parents are still up here. My sister lives up here. I'm going to miss the hell out of them. Mm-hmm. But I'm also, as individuals, I think the one thing we all need to be smart about is sometimes it's okay to be a trendsetter. Maybe they'll move and relocate down to that area. I'm only an hour and a half flight away, so it's not that far, right? It's not like I'm in Hawaii or anything like that. Right. But
that sounds fun.
Although that would be cool, but not a lot of manufacturing takes place out there. You got to also make decisions sometimes for what your future means. And you got to take your own life into your own destiny. Like I said, your control bucket. That's what you can control. You can make those decisions. And you got to think what's important to you and your values. So, I mean, for me, family is really important. And I'm going to definitely miss my folks and my sister. And I'm not going to be able to see them as often as I want to. But what I know is I'm going to make it an effort to come up here and to see them. And they're going to come down and see me. So it's not like we're going to completely not see each other. It's just not going to be as frequent and as often. But if you make a decision for your future, for your life, you got to accept that some of those decisions might require you to do a little bit extra work to cover something that you might be leaving behind, like in my scenario. So that's kind of what we're doing, and that's where we're at. But to go into like the thing to do better is, you know, some of the things we agreed with everybody that we would, you know, comp people for staying with us to the end, staying on board remote or coming with us. And part of that was that we would have contracts for people. I've always been, my dad's this way. He's a handshake kind of guy, right? He taught me that way. Like if I tell you something, like if I commit to a word, I'm going to do it, right? 100% of the time. I don't need a piece of paper for me. So we had these contracts put together. We were pushing with a you know, employment lawyer that we work with just to get the legalities to it all written properly. That took a little longer to get done than I would have hoped for. I rather would have gotten that into the hands of these guys probably a couple months ago. But that's, you know, that's one of the areas I would have pushed a little bit harder for to get done. Like I said, I have a ton of other notes. I just don't have them all in my head.
That's so good. I love that. So one of the biggest things I got out of that for anyone listening, you know, whatever you're doing, whatever move you're doing, talk to people that are doing, that have what you want, that have done what you want to do, and ask them the pros and ask them the cons. I always say that in any line of work, like if you're going to get into any industry, even talk to someone that's done it for 10 years longer than you, or 10 years or whatever, and ask them like, hey, what did you do? How did you get there? So I think that right there, I think is, you know, pay attention to that. Anyone that's listening, like whatever you're thinking of doing, ask people that have what you want, whether it's a relationship, whether it's, you know, business, whether it's health, whether it's whatever, and what they're doing. What should you do? What shouldn't you do? And then you can take notes, and you don't have to do the same. You don't have to follow the same mistakes. You can like avoid some of the minefields. So
yeah, let me add one thing to that, because that's actually going down the path of what I was just thinking about. I think the one thing that we as leaders of businesses need to recognize, we feel and have emotions and have fears and have, you know, joys and excitements and feelings and all that stuff. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be this way, but for me specifically, it's what drives me a lot is I believe that other people have those same emotions and feelings and vibes going on, and their energies are fluctuating just like every other being that walks this earth. In this kind of situation is spend time talking to your people about what they're going through. Are you fearful? What are you fearful of, right? Because think about it. A lot of things and fears that people have is it's stuff that they fester inside. And the longer it festers without being talked about, it becomes this massive thing that's actually nothing. It's being held by a thin little piece of hair, can be cut and let go, right? So getting in front of people would be something, I think we did a pretty good job of it. If I were to go back and do it again, I would spend double the amount of time in that aspect. It's just one-on-ones or, you know, departments with people and be like, hey guys, let's talk, right? Let's get this stuff out there. Let's talk it through, because you get to help control the feelings and emotions where they just leave your business and they go home and they're working with, like you had asked me before, you know, many of the people on my team, they got friends that are up here too. They're probably like, dude, are you crazy? Why are you moving? What's wrong with you? What's not? This is crazy, right? They're getting that fed in their mind all the time. Where if we do the time and spend the time on this side to get to know the people and their feelings more and what they're going through, it helps to balance that out, and it gets them to be at a level of equilibrium where they can make a smart decision.
I love that. That's so cool. So yeah, more time talking to your teams, more time in the field. I think that's awesome. I know we could go for a long time, but we keep these pretty short. I have a short attention span. So in wrapping up, I always have 3 final questions, and then anything that you want to get into that you want to leave the listeners with. So first final question is, if someone is looking for their purpose, which I feel like you found it, someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you would say that could help them find it?
Oh, I love this question. One sentence, huh?
One paragraph, one sentence.
Think about, if you're looking for your purpose, look for the things that bring you joy, and then find a way to apply that from a profession, a business, or a way of your life. If you're a climber and you love to do that as a hobby, maybe you go become a trainer, or you go work for companies that make parts for climbing companies, right? Because how cool is it to work on a product that you get to test and then use on something that brings you joy and happiness, right? So if you're trying to find like a professional purpose and you don't know what path to go down and what skills to learn, think about the thing that brings you joy, and then think about all the supply chain areas of that business and see how you can get involved in part of it. It'll give you joy about what you're doing.
I love that. That's so cool. Second question. I'm sure you have more than one, but what comes to mind? What's a favorite quote and why?
Ooh, my current favorite quote. It's been with me for probably the last 2.5 years. Those who care more win more. Simple, it's easy. And what I know for myself, I'm a person who's going to win. I'm going to win all the time. I'm going to win everything that I put my energy behind and my effort to. And even if I lose, I'm going to still find a way to win later, come back and try again kind of scenario, because I care so much. When I look at my team, when I look at the people I've built, when I feel this winning that I'm doing right now with the people that are around me, they're here because I show how much I absolutely care about them as people first, right? We all like to work. We all like to show our skills. If you take care of your people, you care about who they are, their family, what they're working on, what their future is, that's going to help you level up to a place you've never been before. So those who care more win more.
I love that. Last final question is, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
Ooh, that's a freaking good one.
How do you want to be remembered?
Yeah. It comes back to care and honesty, I think. I want people to step back and be like, you know what, that dude cared about people. He really cared about getting to know me. He really cared about asking me questions. He cared about me as a person, for love, for professional improvements, for whatever it is. I wanted to say that dude cared.
That's good. I love that. That's so cool. Okay. So you run into someone in, the coffee shop and they're like, hey, Stefan, that was awesome. Like, I've got some tips from that. Was there anything that we didn't touch on that you just really think people need to pay attention to or need to hear?
I'll bring back another quote. My other favorite quote lately. It's a really, really simple one, and it can be broken down into 100 different ways if you really think about it. And it goes like this: to be is to do. And if you step back and you think about that and you say to be is to do, my question to people when I ask that, as I look at them, I say, what do you want to be? They say, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a professional this. I want to be a professional that. Well, go do it. I want to be 10 pounds less. Well, then go do it. I want to be a person who eats healthy. Well, then go do it. It's truly that simple, as we've all gone through things and we've realized, and I know a lot of people are going through struggles in their life and so forth. And, worrying about things all day long is like sitting on a rocking chair, right? Like you're moving really, really fast and doing all kinds of stuff, but you're not going anywhere.
Right.
So to be is to do. What do you want to be? What do you want to have? What do you want? Go do it. Yeah, you might have a huge hill that you got to climb where the other guy's kind of halfway up to start, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. Doesn't mean you can't accomplish what it is. Lean on people, learn how to ask questions, learn how to ask for help and so forth. Those are the things that are going to help you overcome some of the challenges that, might be in front of you. But to be is to do.
So I'm going to step on that and carry it through. I'm curious. That's a lot of self-belief, which a lot of people lack. You have it in spades. What is something someone can do to grow their self-belief? Because most people are like, yeah, I want that. But they're like, yeah, just do it. People are like, but I can't do it, because they have this limiting belief of themselves. So what is something that could help someone grow a self-belief in your mind?
Awesome follow-up question. And here's the reality. So did I. I didn't really have a lot of belief in myself. The only thing I really believed in myself was that I was really good at helping people, but I never helped me. I would always pour in everybody else. You need my help this weekend? You want to move your house? You want to do this? You want to do that? Sure, I'm in. But I wouldn't give to myself. And the thing that changed for me was as I started to realize, and everybody talks about it all the time, right? There's hundreds of buzzwords about it. It's like the relationship you have with you is the relationship that you can have with everybody else in the world. I started to realize what the value of the relationship is with me, and one of our mentors in our industry in Arete is Andy Frisell, and he talks a lot about the power list and the power of, and Ed talks about it too, is the power of asking yourself to do something and then doing it and repeating that process builds this level of belief in self. Like all things, if you want to get muscles, if you want to get exercise, if you want to run a marathon, you're not going out the gate running 26 miles. You're running a half a mile. Then you're running a mile. You got to get the reps in. And those reps are what's going to build up that level of confidence. If you want to have self-belief, you want to believe to be, I want to believe in myself. Well, then go do the things you need to do to believe in yourself, which is work on you. ask yourself to do something and then hold that promise and do it. And then repeat that cycle. It's an unbelievably, actually simple process that just it stacks on itself. So like for somebody who wants to lose 10 pounds, it's not, I don't want to lose 10 pounds. It's, I got to go walk 20 minutes today. And then I'm going to walk 20 minutes tomorrow. And then I'm going to walk 20 minutes the next day. Building wins like that, even if you lose some of them, but you win most of them, that is an incredible, incredible way to build belief in who you are as a person, which builds up your confidence, which builds up your happiness, which puts you in a room with an aura. And then the people are going to come to you and be like, how the hell did you do it? I wanted to be this and I did this.
That's so good. That's a lot of value right there. I hope you guys stay till the end, because I think that's the biggest thing is like, building self-belief, because if you have self-belief, you can absolutely do anything. So thanks for being on, guys. Make sure to share, review. We'll have all of Stefan's information in the show notes. Make sure to reach out to him if you have any questions or thoughts or anything. I know he's super helpful. Let's go out there. Let's change the world one starfish or one person at a time. If we can change one life at a time together, we can change the world. Thanks so much for being on.
Angela, appreciate you greatly. Look forward to seeing you again soon.